And then a couple of years after that, this album just overtook everything, and I absolutely adored it. I used to listen to it all the time. It's a really interesting album that's starting to push the boundaries that he would then go flying over in a handcart into unknown territory.
Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. I am Andy. The fellow over there is John. And as we do here, we chat and discuss and listen to music. John, what do you have in store today?
Okay, so it is an artist who we have visited a few times before, and that is Mr. Tom Waits.
Ah, yes, finally. Tom Waits has
So,
come back to the Audiophiles. So, what do we
well,
have?
so we've done one, two, three, four of his tracks already. This one is a song called Temptation.
Temptation, huh? All right. It's an interesting name out of the gate already. Um, all right, well, let's see what Mr. Waits has in store for us. And to say on the topic of temptation, I'll go off, give this thing a go, and come back and we can chop it up. It's interesting. It's like this. It's a really sad correspondence between a saxophone and a trumpet, like they're communicating uh, to one another, like an airing of the grievances between these two iconic instruments. Did I miss my night? Hold on, let me pull that back a little bit. Or I just paused it right before the percussions came in and it threw me for a loop because I wasn't expecting to hear them when I hit play. Okay, yeah. That violin in the background, also very sad sound. Sorry, I'm gonna need to. With Waits, you need to focus on the lyrics, and they're hard enough to hear with his delivery. Said something about being lost in brandy, in a diamond glass. Um, Everything's made from or of dreams. I didn't catch that next line, but I did hear him say that only fools know what it means. So sounds like this sort of forlorn lover type thing going on here. Interesting stuff. And then he sounded like he just went into the titular refrain of temptation. Percussions are simple but nice. I'm sorry. One, his tone. This it sounds like someone took a falsetto and lit it on fire. Because it has this ashy, imperfect nature to it. But you hear him like stretching and reaching, so he's going up in register. And for Waits, is maybe not the loftiest of heights, but you hear it. And there's something appealing about the imperfection of his voice that has obviously grown on me as we've done more and more of his tracks. And then I think he said something about she's made of smoke, which I found to be an incredible. I mean, I look for this in Waite's lyricism, like this really evocative stuff that might have more than one meaning. Like smoke is intangible; you can't possess it, at least not for long. It dissipates and becomes part of the ether. And maybe that's his way of describing his inability to have this individual. But also, smoke is a warning. It's a warning sign for fire, for bigger, more dangerous things to come. So perhaps there's a bit of that about the nature of their relationship or how she is or makes him feel. Love that. Who's this? Broken voice. Itchy, scratchy violin. Neverland.
She's there waiting for you. My
Just touches the cymbals and the little pops.
confusion is so clear. Temptation, temptation, I can't resist. Rusty brandy in a diamond nest. Everything is made from me. Time made for one is slow and sweet. Poor little fools know what it means.
Yeah, this repeating in the first verse. The old fade out. Yeah, this was really interesting. That second, I don't know. I I only hear Wade sing in one style. So whatever that sort of emotive, almost like tortured opera singer voice in the back was, I don't know where that came from. Really interesting, but I don't know what the hell that was or who really. And it was an interesting additive in the mix here. The music is always subtle in his tracks, but there that doesn't make them less worthy of note. I really loved all the little choices and things happening that admittedly you have to sift through a little bit because you have to get through especially when he's singing, that voice and all the emotion like poured over it, and then you have to sift, kind of get beyond that. It's kind of like the oil that is separate from the water, and you have to get through the oil in order to get through the water, and the water is the music, and it's this lovely shuffling of these hand drums and that really like interesting horn pops and the sort of itchiness to the strings in there as well, that all makes it very evocative, and it complements kind of this itchy, uneasy feeling of like, I'm assuming, temptation of the romantic variety, and especially when the temptation is met with sort of like this unavailable nature, like you can't really quench that thirst of temptation. And so I think you hear that coming through in his emotions as he's delivering these lyrics, of which I caught some but not all, and those that I did I'm not 100% confident in, and yet still I was able to kind of piece together what I think Waits was going for with this one. uh, I'll admit I really did like this track. It's not going to reach the levels of Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis or Closing Time or Blue Valentines. I think those are kind of like my big three of the few that we've done by him, but I still really enjoyed this a lot. Yeah, he always puts you in a place with his music. Like you feel yourself kind of in another environment when the music starts up until when it stops. And this is just another kind of great example of that. So there's always interesting stories behind the songs that Mr. Waits puts together. So I'd be interested to hear the one behind this. So let's get back to John and chop it up.
John the Revelator, he's back. So you've had listened to Temptation by Mr. Waits. Be very interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. Because we always have interesting discussions when it comes to Mr. Waits's oeuvre and the songs that you bring from it to this channel. Um, it starts, and after a few seconds, there appears this woeful correspondence between what sounds like a saxophone and a trumpet. Like two star-crossed lovers lamenting the time and distance between them. And given the name of the track and how oftentimes, I think just about all the songs that we've covered by him are often these snippets, these glimpses into a relationship between that's a two-party, you know, presentation. It's the narrator and the object of his ire, affection, whatever is going on in any given song. So because of that, I think that already is sort of taking me by the hand and leading me to this belief that there is this A and B situation. And I think that if that is the case, the way these two instruments start the song and already build in it this feeling of, remorse or loss or this inattainability between them is brilliant, because you have like the instruments sort of already setting the stage for what you're going to get between the two human parties that are the focal point of the track. So loved that out of the gate. Then after a faint sustained note, we get a rap of a drum that is soon followed by this shuffling motion of more hand percussions, and then faint weeping like sound of a violin. And already this mood of sorrow or remorse is taken form here in the very early days of this track, in both that small introductory blurb that I had mentioned, and now the sound and aesthetic and feel of this portion. After the splash of a cymbal, Waits' voice slides into frame. Without even seeing him, I can envision the wrenching and turning of his face as he delivers the very emotive, though not easily discernible, opening lines. He sounds like he's singing in falsetto that has been set on fire. It's ashy and worn, but it's still reaching for something higher, especially when you know the pocket that his voice usually occupies. So it sounds like he's trying to get above that, but it all has all the lovely imperfections of Waite's voice coming along with it, which is why I described it as a falsetto set on fire. He also makes some reference to brandy right out of the gate, and I have very little confidence in what I think I hear, but it sounded like lost in brandy in a diamond glass. Everything is made from dreams. Then he makes some reference to honey, slow and sweet. Uh, Only fools know what it means. So it sounds like he's drowning his feelings. I think it's a safe bet. He then repeats the titular line a few times before returning to lament about his inability to resist it. He notes that this she is made of smoke and he's lost his way. Now, I find that line about being made of smoke incredibly evocative, and oftentimes there can be these, dual or triple meanings, if not more, behind his intentions when he selects and crafts the words to these tracks. Um, so the first thing I think about when I think of temptation and this sort of like gulf between the two parties is that smoke is intangible, much like this woman appears to be to him. And perhaps it's, something or someone who is unattainable. And you can't really hold smoke, obviously, right? It dissipates and fades and goes off into the ether. But it's also a warning sign, of worse things to come because where there's smoke, there's fire. So there's a bit of that as well. And just as he more overtly alludes to, sort of being lost or having lost his way, smoke can cloud the vision and, make the things that are in front of you hard to see or figure out. So there, all three of these metaphorical, mechanisms can exist within this one lyric, which is a great to be able to unpack all of that and get like three times the bang for your, proverbial buck here. So I really, really loved that line a lot. It stood out to me. There's always a couple in his songs that really grab me, and you can dissect and parse through the possible meanings of. This is a shining example of that. He then follows this up with a line, I think, he said parenthetically without confidence. She knows that I am broke, but I must play. So I assume this is him acknowledging that she knows he is helpless to her charms or whimsies or appeal, whatever it is, she's got her claws in him. And he bookends this portion of the track by repeating that titular refrain, he can't resist. Then there appears this other voice, or one that certainly doesn't sound like Waits in any other track of his I've heard. Um, it too has this grief stricken sound to it, like it's being belted through tears of pain. And it will likely come as a major shock to you, John, I'm sure. But I have no idea what this voice is saying. If anything at all, it's just emotive. That's all the one quality that it brings to the table. Um, I see you moving your head over there. I hope you maybe sit on some more information about that when we get to it. Waits delivers another refrain as the voice retreats, and this is followed by another stanza of verse. While that sort of shuffling motif slides along beneath his delivery, I love the splashes of the cymbals in this track, as subtle as they are. They stand out, every one of them. And the faint pops of horn work that also appear underneath. None of this is overt or like swallows the oxygen in the room. All of it sort of all the instruments really take a second seat to his sort of vocal performance, which is important because his lyrical content is so integral to the whole storytelling process. Another thing that I really love is the itchy, uncomfortable feeling of the violin scratches throughout this, which I think would be easily juxtaposed or held up against the itchy, unrequited feeling that it's this scratch that can't be itched. Sort of, or this itch that can't be scratched. There we are. I knew I'd get there in the end. Aesthetic to this whole thing, where if you're pining for something that can't be fulfilled, that could easily equate or be represented by the feeling that these violins give you throughout the track. At first, I thought he opened with a line, touch me. But upon reflection, I think he says, Dutch Pink, and Italian Blue. And if it wasn't for Italian Blue, I would not have rethought that opening line. But I'm like, touch me, Italian Blue. That doesn't add up. So she is there waiting for you. My will has disappeared, and now my confusion is oh so clear. So our man sounds like the only thing he is sure of is how unsure he is about everything concerning this muse of his. He delivers the refrain again, and another splash of the cymbal. Waite's voice commingles with that labored, painful delivery of the mystery voice before the first stanza is repeated, followed by one final refrain lamenting the effects of this temptation as the song then fades to completion. Yeah, this certainly possesses that weight sound and the feeling I've come to expect, though admittedly it doesn't rank as highly as some of the past tunes by him that we've covered. Those are lofty heights, and that doesn't suggest in any way, shape, or form that I did not thoroughly enjoy this. I did. It's just, come on, man. Christmas Card from a hooker in Minneapolis, Closing Time, and Blue Valentines are forever like the holy trinity for me until they are, dethroned or deposed by whatever future song you might give, but they still firmly hold the top three. This, as you mentioned, is now the fifth, I think, and it's hovering somewhere around 4 or 5 for me between the total that we've done. But again, I really still really enjoyed this. There's a lot to appreciate in the lyrical craftsmanship and the subtleties of the music that only fortify the feeling and mood conveyed in those lyrics. So tell me more about this one, John. As usually the case when I wrap up listening to a Wait song, I'm pretty intrigued here.
Thanks for that, Andy. Yeah, before we get into it, I will say this. So, for final 2 years at school, I was with a friend who used to play Tom Waits on a daily basis. I hated every fucking second of it. It was like torture, like fingernails on the blackboard. Couldn't get it at all. And then, amazingly, a year later, we're listening to Big Time, his live album. I'm absolutely fucking loving it. And it's probably even more polarizing and bombastic than the stuff that my friend was playing. Definitely rawer. But and then a couple of years after that, this album just overtook everything, and I absolutely adored it. I used to listen to it all the time. It's a really interesting album that's starting to push the boundaries that he would then go flying over in a handcart into unknown territory. So yeah, we have previously listened to, as you said, Shore Leave, Blue Valentine, Closing Time, and Christmas Card. Okay, Minneapolis. Playlist that's been included on it. Links down below. You can go and check out a bit more about them. But just as to pick up the narrative of his career at this point. So this is from the album Frank's Wild Years, which is his 10th studio album, released in 1987 on Island Records. So it's the third in a very loose trilogy, which really saw the sort of massive shift in his creative output from the kind of stuff you've been listening to, and that's sort of fairly standard, and then going on this creative bend and then off into the ether. I mean, amazingly. So it began with Swordfish Trombones. This is subtitled An Operaci Romantico in 2 acts. And the album contains songs written by Waits and collaborators, including mainly his wife, Catherine Brennan, for a play of the same name. So the play, Frank's Wild Years, had its premiere at Briar St. Theatre in Chicago, Illinois, in 1986, and was performed by the Steppenwolf Theatre Company, who are quite famous, I believe. And the title is derived from the song Frank's Wild Years, which is a track on Swordfish Trombones. And which you Shore Leave was a track off that album, which you've already listened to. So according to Steve Hutchman, this Rags to Rags tale completes the trilogy that began in 83's Swordfish Trombones. Featuring the song Frank's Wild Years, which the protagonist torches his suburban SoCal house and heads north on the Hollywood freeway. Then came 1985's Rain Dogs, which mixed a Brecht Weil drama with Captain Beefheart bizarreness. for an effect that conjured up a Saturday night fish fry in the freak show of a decrepit circus. Heady stuff. The song basically follows Frank on a hazy, ill-fated, Orphic journey straight to the top. These are all song titles, brackets Vegas, through temptation, then way down in the hole, and then finally out on the cold, cold ground. At the road's end lies innocent when you dream, brackets 78, a moral that was just told to Frank early on, but doesn't hit home until the end when it's heard in a lovely, tinily nostalgic rendition. Some of the production on this album is really amazing as well. Some of it sounds like it's been played on an old 78 through a gramophone, just the way they've done it. So, personnel in this album, this is for the whole album. There's a lot going on in this album. Tom Waits, vocals, pump organ, Optigan, which is a branded electronic keyboard, guitar, vocal stylings as well. There's a track where he actually barks through a bullhorn rather than singing. You'll hear that. Rooster, I don't know if that's live or dead. Piano, Farcifer, Mellotron, drums, conga, tambourine. William Schmimmel, piano, pump organ, accordion, Leslie bass pedals, cocktail piano. I don't know what a cocktail piano is, but it sounds charming. Larry Taylor, bass, upright bass. Morris Tepper, guitar. Francis Thrum, prepared piano, pump organ. Michael Blair, drums, conga, percussion, maracas, marimba, orchestra, bells, glockenspiel. Ralph Carney, saxophone, baritone, horn, violin, tenor. Mark Ribot, guitar and banjo. Greg Cohen, bass, alto, horn arrangements. Leslie bass pedals. David Hidalgo, accordion. An amazing accordion in this album as well. I never thought I'd hear myself saying that. Jay Anderson, bass, and Leslie Holland, back vocals. Angela Brown, backing vocals. Lynn Jordan, background vocals. And Kathleen Brennan, vocal arrangements, particularly for the track you just listened to. So this album was ranked number 5 amongst albums of the year for 87 in the annual NME Critics poll. And AllMusic wrote of it, the spare, stripped-down arrangements consisting of instruments like marimba, baritone horn, and pump organ, and singing in a strained voice that has been artificially compressed and distorted. The songs themselves are often conventional romantic vignettes, or would be, minus the oddities of instrumentation, arrangement, and performance. For example, Innocent When You Dream, a song of disappointment in love and friendship, has a winning melody, but is played in a seesaw arrangement of pump organ, bass, violin and piano, and Waits sings it like an enraged drunk. Straight to the Top is done as a demented rumba in Act 1, and then again as a Vegas-style Frank Sinatra swing tune in Act 2. It is something else. Elvis Costello included Francois Years on his list of essential albums, highlighting Hang On to Christopher and Instant When You Dream as particular favourites. So the lyrics... yeah, very evocative. And the delivery of this is something else as well. I thought it'd just be really interesting. Do you hear a falsetto, Tom Waits?
yeah. That term is used loosely, but yes.
Yes, yeah. So, rusted brandy in a diamond glass. Everything is made from dreams. Time made from honey, slow and sweet. Only the fools know what it means. Temptation, temptation, temptation. I can't resist. I just know that she's made of smoke, but I've lost my way, yeah. She knows that I am broke, but I must play, yeah. Temptation, temptation, yeah. Temptation, I can't resist. And then it says here in brackets, non-lyrical vocals. Oh, and then it comes back, oh, temptation, 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 I just can't resist. Dutch pink and Italian blue. She is there waiting for you. My will has disappeared. My confusion is oh so clear. Temptation, 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 I can't resist. More non-lyrical vocals. Temptation, 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 I just can't resist. And then back to the first verse. Rusted brandy in a diamond glass, everything is made from dreams. Time made from honey, slow and sweet. Only the fool knows what it means. Temptation, 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 and fade out. So, Dutch pink is a common shade of yellow, but is also possibly a slang for blood.
Mm.
Waits previously referenced it in the line Dutch Pink on a downtown train from the song Jockey Full of Bourbon on the album Rain Dogs, the one preceding this, which curiously featured yellow and blue lettering on the cover.
Mm.
Um, you also highlighted that line about
Smoke.
I know I just know she's made of smoke. Um, but I've lost my way. Yeah, she knows that I am broke, but I must play. Yeah, it made me think of a desert gin, particularly from American gods, that are made of fire and smoke. This sort of thing that appears that can grant you your dreams or wishes, but often ends in misery. Um, it's that kind of image. I mean, there's lots of
Yeah.
things, isn't it? But yeah, this almost embodiment of um, the dream of temptation, what you're going to get from this temptation, and but obviously you're not going to get it. So Tom Waits has listed the Rolling Stones' Exile on Main Street as one of his favorite albums. No accounting for taste, in particular because of the way Mick Jagger sings. From The Guardian 2005, he said, I just want to see his face. That song had a big impact on me, particularly learning how to sing in that high falsetto the way Jagger does. When he sings like a girl, I go crazy. I said, I got to learn how to do that. I couldn't really do it until I stopped smoking.
Yeah.
That's when it started to get easier to do. Um, Waite's own Shore Leave has that all stripped down temptation. But he says, nobody does it like Mick Jagger. Nobody does it like Prince. But this is just a tree of life. This record is the watering hole. Keith Richards plays his ass off. This is the checkerboard lounge all over it. On this album, it is a fantastic album. So yeah, it starts off Hang On St. Christopher, which is another great song. And this weird blow and blow in the What You Dream barroom version, blah, 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 blah. And then Way Down in the Hole, which obviously was used as theme tune for The Wire, one of our favorites. And then there's Cold, Cold Ground, which is another one of his sort of favorite songs. And it's very beautiful and impassioned. Jim Sclavunos of many bands, including Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, recalls that, in quotes, for the better part of a year after its release, Frank's Wild Years was the nightly go-to pump-up album for me and my roommate. Gussying ourselves up to war song strains of temptation, straight to the top, etc., was an essential part of our ritual of getting ourselves in the mood before emerging from the squalor of our Lower East Side tenement, ready to take on the world. And it's funny he says that because for me and some of my friends, it was Never Mind the Bollocks by the Sex Pistols or Now I Got Worry by John Spencer and the Blues Explosion, both of which are very high octane. Fueled up on gin, we would then hit the streets and disintegrate. So yeah, this is a really wildly creative album, and just the sonic landscape is all these sort of weird sort of rumba and different tunes and different timings and instruments that are really interesting. It feels like it was forged in some Eastern European country in the 1930s. It's odd but
Mm.
wonderful and beautiful. And so I thought I'd give you a different side of Mr. Waits without going too far beyond the horizon, because some of his stuff really is. But I've got a feeling that if I'd have given this to you first, as the first, of the songs from Waits, you wouldn't have enjoyed it half as much. I think you're invested in a bit more now and got used to him. Because it takes time, I think, for most people to get into Tom
Yeah,
Waits, and
that
some
could
people never do.
very well be the case. So, did you confirm in all of that? It sounded like you did that was Waits disembodied vocalizing that sounded yeah, yeah, wow. That's
Yeah,
interesting because it didn't have any of the not any of it had nowhere near the amount of rock tumbler effect to the
I
voice.
know.
That's
I
interesting.
I will. I've got some more songs in mind, but I'll see if I can dig out some live performances. I think you'll get a kick out seeing him live as well. He's quite something. Well, you can imagine. He's got a hell of shitload of charisma.
Yeah.
So you know, depending on what persona he takes on, the sort of the beatnik poet or the drunken piano player or whatever, you know, the down and out, all those sort of different personas that he, you know, does. But yeah, I'll see if I can dig out some live ones. So I think you'll really get a kick out of that.
Cool.
But yeah, thanks for listening to this, Andy.
Thank you.
Interesting track. Folks out there, please tell us what you think. If you like this, do hit the like button and please drop some comments about this track, this album. I really love it. I'm sure there are people out there that's probably a bridge too far. But you know, who knows? So yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Tell us what you think. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. We really appreciate everybody who does support the channel. So hop on board. Ting ting. That being said, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.